Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. Yes, that is paper towel. It's sitting there. Bit brighter in here. I switched the light bulbs. You can see the shine on my head now. Because I woke up this morning. It is New Year's Day. It is the 1st of January. Um, because of my drinking my lemonades when I did that Deadpool and Wolverine reaction, I woke up confused. Um, I shaved, but not. Oh, I have like a Hulk Hogan mustache thing going on. I don't know why I did it. And I had this thing. I don't know. I may shave it off. I shaved drunk. I don't remember doing that. And then when I went to turn on the light in here, when my ass had to get a steel chair, borrowed two light bulbs from the bathroom because I did one that side and it looked off, so I had to go do the other one. And all that stuff. So now it's brighter in here. There's the story of why it's bright. So we're back on the Pick 10 Will Ferrell train. I'm trying to finish this up. And we're doing Get Hard. And yes, with a name like that, they do crack a lot of jokes with that. Like it's supposed to say at the end of the movie, like, oh yeah, you got me hard. You know, you did that. You got me hard. And there was a time that I wasn't hard. And I thought of you and I got hard again. And I'm just like, I get it. Like, Will Ferrell's two biggest problems. Yelling. He thinks yelling equals comedy. And he just keeps going on. He makes the joke go on for so long, it stops being funny. Like, that is one of the most obvious jokes you could do in this movie. Is because the title is Get Hard. And not only did they went to the end of the movie to actually do that joke, I mean, they reference a couple times. But then it just keeps going on and on and on. It's like, just shut up. What this movie is about is that Will Ferrell plays an investment stockbroker guy named James King. He is framed for embezzlement and is going to spend 10 years in prison for what he supposedly had done. So he ends up getting his car washer named Darnell, played by Kevin Hart, to help him get hard, to help him learn what it's going to be like in prison. So, as I was watching this movie, an issue arose for me where it's like a normal movie would have, oh, he's framed. He knows he was framed. He knows he didn't do it. But that's not the movie. Like, do you think, oh, okay, then he should be trying to prove his innocence? But that's not what the movie is. That's not how they wrote the movie. The movie is a black man teaching a white man how to survive in prison. And yes, that is incredibly racist, although that's not my point of view. That is the filmmaker's point of view, is that even the character of James King just assumes that Darnell's been to prison because he's black. And because he wants to make the $30,000 to send his daughter to college or for his car wash thing, I don't know. He agrees to do it. But yeah, and then all the comedy is just it's all of the obvious going to prison comedy. You're gonna go in there, you're gonna get that's the sound of them you getting fucked. That's the sound. That's what it's gonna be. You know, you gotta learn how to suck a dick. So they go to a gay club and yeah. And yeah, any obvious joke. Oh, any of the obvious, you know, kind of jokes about prison, they throw them out there. At one point he makes a shiv or a shank. I don't know the difference. I've never been in prison, so but like, and they try to get him into a gang. There's a lot of this movie. This movie is an hour and 46 minutes long, and I don't think it needed to be. There are points where you think, oh, it should be wrapping up, but they keep doing things to keep it going. At one point, an hour into the movie, Darnell finally says, it's finally brought up by Darnell's daughter that I don't think he did it. And his wife's like, no, he did not do it. Why aren't you helping him with that? And then it's like, doesn't do anything. We continue with this and to help him get into a gang or whatever. Like he needs some real protection. And then he's like, well, you really didn't do it, did you? No, I did not. Well, let's figure out who did do it. And the most obvious person who did it, because they reveal it to the audience beforehand, because he keeps going to his future father-in-law for to get updates, and he's just, oh, we're working on it. And I'm like the minute I saw Craig T. Nelson, I'm like, oh, so he did it. It's him. And then they show he's out golfing when he's talking to him, and he's like, we gotta make sure he doesn't find out anything. I'm like, oh, okay, so he did do it. Like, they don't hold that mystery because that's not what the movie's supposed to be. The movie is supposed to be based on the comedy of he's gonna go to prison, so then let's do a bunch of prison jokes at his expense. That's what the movie is. And it's just, I don't know. Because we don't actually come around to proving his innocence till there's 25 minutes of the movie left. Yeah, so that means an hour and 21 minutes are spent on prison buttfuck jokes and all that stuff. And constantly doing other things to push the plot. Is it funny when they set up his rich house? Which, by the way, they do explain it. Where the guy's like, well, he should have taken the plea deal so he would go to prison right away, but now he's got... I'm like, what kind of judicial system tells someone, we're going to send you to prison for 10 days, for 10 years. But you know what? You got about a whole month to just sit and do nothing. And he's under house arrest. Sure. And they don't bring it up till the end where it's like, oh, hey, I violated this. He's going all around town in this movie. He goes to the hood. He's going all over the place. Why is that the only time that the cops show up? It's kind of confused. It's confusing. I don't know. But of course it was the father-in-law. And I have an issue with the daughter being in on it. I mean, it's obvious as well because as soon as he gets in trouble, there's like a couple scenes of her and then she's gone from the rest of the movie. The fact that she's not supportive and trying to help him, they kind of... I don't really understand why he needed to be marrying the daughter of his boss. Could it just be it's his boss and he framed him? The boss framed his co-worker, or his employee, excuse me. The I'm gonna marry your daughter thing doesn't really add to anything on the plot. Even at the end, he's like, were you in on this? She's like, no. Well, not at first. And it's like, it really feels like they didn't know what to do with that character. Because I feel like if he had the supportive fiance character, it wouldn't have worked, with Darnell, because she'd always be like, But even if she was in on it, I felt like she still should have been more involved at being negative towards Darnell. Like, Darnell's trying to help him, and she's there to kind of run interference, so to speak. But she disappears from this movie till the third act. And I don't know. She just feels like she's not needed in this movie. Even Darnell's wife doesn't have much to do, but the parts that we see from her are kind of important, So that works. But Alison Brie does not work at all in this movie. I don't know why she's even here. We didn't even need the daughter thing, you know? Because to show that she doesn't amount to anything, he ends up hooking up with an African American lady who is part of the Crenshaw Kings, I guess. By the way, Darnell's cousin is played by T.I. I'm not a fan of T.I.'s or anything, but my favorite line from him is in the Entourage movie, where he's with his wife. They're in the, because Eric in that movie, his wife's having a baby. So he's there, and it's like his 10th baby or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, do me a favor, punch me in my nuts so I can't have kids anymore," or something like, no more kids, or something like that. You think you have a lot of kids? Why don't you look up Nick Cannon? Just saying, this dude about to have one in every state. Anyway, but yeah, and that's a lot of stereotypical things, and like I said, they just keep throwing things in, because like I said, with about 45 minutes left of the movie, that's when it first comes up about he's innocent, and then they sort of bring it up, but like then they're like, "Oh no, we gotta get you into a gang," so it takes them to the Crenshaw Kings, and then they're like, "No, we're gonna send you to the Whiteys or whatever they are, bunch of racists, and he can't say the N-word." So they think he's a cop, and then there's a thing where Darnell comes in with a flamethrower, but of course they gotta put a punchline at the end where the flamethrower starts working, so they gotta run away. I'm just like, this is the most obvious gags you can do in a comedy. Like, could they not think of any jokes for this movie except for the obvious ones? Right? Like, one of the things he says at the beginning is, the Wall Street Journal and a nice glass of wine or something like that. And at the end, the obvious joke now, since he's been in prison, is, I like the Wall Street Journal and a 40. Because now he's been in prison. Yeah, he does still go to prison, even though they do prove his innocence. So I remembered that they proved his innocence, and I'm like, but I felt like the whole, like, they do kind of come around to the whole preparing him for stuff does help him in the end, even though he ended up knowing how to do some weird martial arts thing already. Which kind of means that the whole thing with Darnell was pointless to begin with, but yeah, because they find this computer. That's another thing. At one point, when they realize it's Martin, they break in and they steal his computer, only for Martin's head of security guy to hold him at gunpoint and take the computer back. And then they don't try to get the computer back. They're like, no, let's just continue with getting him ready for prison. And I'm just like, because at this point, it's not just that, it's at this point they do the third act split where it's like, oh, he's never actually been to prison. Oh, you lied to me. Cliff? Who cares? Yeah, at this point, lying is the least of your worries. Okay? Because at this point, you now know that your former future father-in-law framed you. Who cares that the guy that was helping you lied to you? You need to prove your innocence. You got like 2 days left. But no, he goes back to the Crenshaw Kings, and this time, for some reason, they accept him. And to join them, he's got to kill someone, which he doesn't. But I guess he's still a part of the Crenshaw Kings because of the girl that comes to visit him in prison. Never. They do eventually prove the innocence, like I said, because he's got the thing. And the cops show up. Which, by the way, they weren't going to arrest him for violating that. But they arrest him for having an unlicensed gun. Don't you think that would have come up when they got there and he was already holding the gun? Which, by the way, that's another thing. I forgot one of the more obvious jokes about going to prison is shoving things up your ass to hide it. Yeah, I don't know. The only thing that I do laugh at, because I think it is realistic, is when he eats his food and he's like, because he's protecting his food or whatever. But that doesn't come into play when they actually see him in prison, because they got to go for another joke, where the guy takes one of his whatever they are, the taquitos or whatever, and he just beats him with the tray. Yeah, so he goes prison for what, 6 months for holding an unlicensed gun. And during that time, he gets everything back. His assets, everything. And then, partway through the movie, when they mentioned that his assets were frozen, I'm like, so how's he going to give Darnell the $30,000? Well, he invested everything in Darnell's car wash, so now Darnell is very successful with his car wash. And the movie ends with them driving away in the car, and I'm just like, I don't know. There should be some kind of big party with his staff. There's also a John Mayer cameo that is annoying as hell because they decided the joke should be that, James wants to play the guitar with, he's playing the guitar with him. I forgot his name. John Mayer. It blanked for a second. But the joke has to be he's doing wildly outlandish chords and then just takes over, and then that's when the police break in. But that's not it, because they wrangled Jimmy Fallon into this shit and have John Mayer go on Jimmy Fallon talking about the experience and then saying he wrote a song about James King. And it's not a good song. Well, the lyrics aren't, it's a diss track basically, if you put it in music terms. But yeah, and again, I'm standing over here because I was getting ready to wash a dish. I was plugging in the dish was later. I was plugging in the Xbox and everything. And my throat's dry. And I was like, did you really need that scene? There's stuff in here that just keeps pushing the plot. Even in the climax, where it's like, okay, they got the computer, they're gonna get out of here. All we gotta do is get in this boat, we get out of here. When they say something was obvious to that, I'm like, okay, this is not gonna work. And yeah, they shoot the boat somehow, and so they're not able to go into the lifeboat, but then they reveal the cops. It just, I don't know. I have a thing with movies now where I'm able to tell where they put filler stuff in to get this 1 hour and 45 minute runtime. You could have had this at a nice hour and a half. The extra 15 minutes is not necessary. As soon as they realize that Martin is behind it, that's when you go into the climax, right? That's when you do it. Okay? Maybe you have the thing where he gets the computer, but then you don't have the breakup. You don't break up, you have them regroup and figure out what to do. You get help from the Crenshaw Kings. Maybe. Oh, hey, my cousin can help me. In my opinion, I think Kevin Hart kind of saves this movie too, because if it was just Will Ferrell, I don't know how it would work. If you put any other actor with him too, I don't know how that would work. What if it's I have this guy who went to prison and it's John C. Reilly, right? But it ends up being, no, I didn't really go to prison. I lied. I just only spent 1 day in lockup. It wasn't really prison. Who knew I had a John C. Reilly in prison? So I didn't really go, But I don't know. Maybe it would have worked, but not as well as Kevin Hart. And also some of the jokes everybody would have to go towards maybe a redneck side of things instead of an African American side of things. Not that John C. Reilly's redneck, but I could see him playing a good one. I don't know. But I'm going to give this a middle of the road. I still maintain it's one of the... I have been noticing that some of these are better than I thought they were. I always said that this was one of the better ones to begin with because I've seen this before. But, yeah. But now... we have made it to this. Elf. A movie that, when I was younger, I thought was okay. But a few years ago, I was watching it when we were getting ready for bed. And it was on TV, and I put it on. I was watching with my son as we were getting ready for bed and everything. And no. Did not age well for me Will Ferrell with James Caan. I don't know. But, so what are your thoughts on Get Hard? Leave a comment, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Sky, and I'll see you in the next one.